Welcome to a new episode of the cut content of Counter-Strike. Today we will be talking about a faction that only made one very brief appearance in Counter-Strike and then just disappeared. Nah, I'm not talking about the Spetsnaz. The same applies to them, however a lot more people know about them. Since they are a real special forces unit, there's a lot more awareness of them. So who are we talking about then? Well, essentially, the American redneck terrorists. Most early Counter-Strike maps revolved around urban spaces and/or military and science installations, with CS Militia forming somewhat of an exception. For Counter-Strike Condition Zero, there was the idea to introduce a terrorist faction that would suit places like CS Militia a lot better. Introducing the NTO, also known as the Midwest Militia. The Midwest Militia first originated from Gearbox Software's design of Counter-Strike Condition Zero. Gearbox wanted to expand the geographical diversity of Counter-Strike maps. Several of their planned maps were to take place in the United States, especially in more rural areas. Examples of these would be CS Shoot House and CS Trailer Park. The latter one developed by Christopher Auty, the map designer responsible for such classics as Inferno, Vertigo and Aztec. Gearbox's Midwest Militia was mostly dressed in workers' attire and what looked to be functional clothing for hunters and stuff you would find in a military surplus shop. Clothing that you would expect to see guys wearing on the shooting range, for example. But not all of them were dressed so regularly. Some of them had a slight comical look to them. For example, one of the head alternatives sports an ice hockey mask, similar to Jason's mask from the Friday the 13th horror movie franchise. Overall, these player models had a lot of variety, including multiple different sets of clothing and heads, which were said to be all interchangeable, massively enriching the visuals. Different sets of camo patterns, clothing, backpacks, and of course heads and face coverings. After Ritual Entertainment took over the development, they dropped all of the Gearbox models and introduced their own versions, with higher resolution textures, but less visual diversity. They changed the Midwest Militia significantly to a more professional look, something you would see more in a heist movie or something, with the combatants wearing headsets and communications equipment instead of utility belts and trucker hats. Several of the different versions can be seen throughout the various single-player missions of Counter-Strike Condition Zero deleted scenes. And just like their Gearbox counterparts, they are equipped with different camo patterns depending on the environment. The idea of changing up the protagonist's clothing depending on the environment was kind of abandoned after Condition Zero, at least the Gearbox and the Ritual versions of Condition Zero. The only time this technology could be seen in action was when playing Counter-Strike for the original Xbox, as this version of Counter-Strike relies heavily on the version of the engine used in Condition Zero deleted scenes. For the ultimate release of Counter-Strike Condition Zero, one of the Midwest Militia player models was chosen and all alternative versions were discarded. At least they chose a good-looking model for the Midwest Militia. Honestly, it is one of the best-looking terrorist designs for Condition Zero. Definitely my favorite terrorists. Very much unlike the Condition Zero lead crew. Ugh, why not go at least with a less ugly head? You were so close to greatness and then just blew it. Well, that statement applies to Condition Zero as a whole, doesn't it? Anyhow, that's the little story about the Midwest Militia, a Counter-Strike faction that only made a brief appearance and then largely went unnoticed. The in-game description states that the Midwest Militia was modeled after the extremists of the early 90s Waco siege in Texas, something that went down in history as a massive blunder for the FBI and ATF. So maybe they were removed because they were too closely connected to a real-life event. What do you think? Should the Midwest Militia make a return to Counter-Strike Global Offensive? I personally like the original design a lot. Why not have an ice hockey mask-clad redneck militia in CSGO? Could be fun, eh? On CS Militia maybe? Or finally a good remake of CS Assault? A bunch of storage facility workers going rogue and taking hostages. At the moment, the chances for the Midwest Militia to make a return are rather slim. But interesting enough, during the concept phase of Counter-Strike Global Offensive, something similar was considered. Concept art for the professionals shows them wearing ice hockey masks. It's not the same as the Midwest Militia, but it is interesting nonetheless. Once again, Condition Zero ideas made their way into Global Offensive. So, what do you think? Share your opinions in the comment section down below. As YouTube keeps reminding me to say, don't forget to like and subscribe in case you liked the video. At this point, a special thanks to all of our supporters on Patreon, who of course got to see this video first. So, see you guys next time. Until then, have a nice day and as always, goodbye and guten Tag.